innovation, sound future.
Nordson Corporation, a world leader in systems that apply adhesives, sealants, and coatings during manufacturing operations to make today's products work better and last longer.
Welcome to today's special forum presented by the City Club of Cleveland. My name is Courtney Diorio, and I'm the club's president. Today's debate is the 8th in a series of 13 that we have presented during this very important 2006 election cycle. The program this afternoon features candidates from Ohio for the United States Senate, including Congressman Sherrod Brown and Senator Mike DeWine. The City Club has a long and proud history of hosting debates for public office, whether the race is perceived by pollsters to be close or not, whether the pundits consider it high profile or not. The City Club is steadfast in its commitment to provide the citizenry with an opportunity to learn about the candidates and the issues. Here at the City Club, we go face to face, in person and in depth. And yes, you, the audience, and the voters will ask the questions. Through the generous support of our broadcast partners, WKYC, IdeaStream, and WCLV, we are able to extend this opportunity to a broader audience. We are profoundly grateful to these partners and welcome those watching and listening throughout the state. As it happens, this race is both high profile and close. 60 minutes will go by very quickly, so let's proceed. WKYC's Tom Barris will be our moderator for today's debate. Tom is the Dean of Cleveland TV Reporters with more than 27 years experience covering Ohio politics. He is host of a Sunday morning segment called Between the Lines. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tom Barris.
Well, all's right with the world. The gong is back. Courtney, thank you very much. I am very grateful and very honored to be moderating this very important debate to help decide which of these two men will be Ohio's next senator. Very different men, very different styles, very different priorities. And perhaps which party controls the United States Senate's hanging in the balance. Now, a little bit of history of the moment here. You realize that this is the biggest crowd ever to witness a City Club debate. So give yourself a round of applause. All right, let me take a quick show of hands survey. Let's be honest, who here is still deciding which of these two men to vote for? Could I have a show of hands, please? Well, very small target audience for you gentlemen, but a lot more undecided voters at home, I'm sure. Okay, here are the rules, the do's and don'ts. The City Club prides itself, as you know, on quality programs. The rules will be strictly enforced to help the candidates make their best presentations and to give you, the audience, the most insight and information that we can provide. The rules for the first portion of the debate as follows. Each candidate gets a total of 12 minutes for both their opening statement and their last word rebuttals. It is their decision how to divvy up that time. So each candidate gets to talk 12 minutes in all. After the candidates have made both sets of their opening remarks, we will get to my favorite part of the City Club, the audience grab bag. Audience members will ask questions to both of the candidates, hopefully providing some October surprises and maybe a few tricks and treats in the bargain. And then finally, I, as moderator, will pose a last question to both men. And now a quick introduction of the speakers as if they are necessary. In this corner, Senator Mike DeWine. Ohio's senior senator, elected twice in 1994 and 2000. He has previously served as Greene County prosecutor, an Ohio State senator in Congress, and is Ohio's lieutenant governor. And in this corner, his Democratic opponent, Congressman Sherrod Brown. A former Ohio State representative, Secretary of State, and elected 7 times to Congress in the 13th District. Now, before we start, this message for you, the live audience here. It has been a very emotional, very heated, very partisan campaign. And I know both men, as we've just seen and heard demonstrated, have lots of strong backers here. But let's remember, this is the City Club. It's a class act. So no speeches disguised as questions, no cheering, no jeering. Let's keep it dignified and civil and give both of these worthy candidates the respect that they deserve. And now the or else here. Helping me act as sheriff will be timekeeper Jim Foster. Any over-the-top excessive demonstrations or noise may be deducted from your candidate's speaking time at the end. Now, the order of speaking was decided by a drawing just a little while ago. And to make sure I've got it right, Congressman Brown, you get first bite of the apple here. So, to get us rolling, opening statement from Congressman Sherrod Brown.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be at the City Club. Thank you all for hosting this. I'd especially like to acknowledge and thank my wife, Connie Schultz, who has taken a leave from a job she dearly loves at the Plain Dealer, Ohio's largest newspaper, and whom I couldn't have done this race without, and I want to thank her. It's good to be home in a long campaign. It's good to be back in Cleveland. Cleveland is in a sense, a second home to me. I grew up in Mansfield, as some of you know. I remember my early days of coming to Cleveland with my mother, who was here, and my father, and my 2 brothers, one of whom is here, Bob. And we used to ride up old US 42 through Ashland and Medina and through Parma to downtown Cleveland to go to that cavernous municipal stadium and watch baseball games. And I remember as a small child in the early 60s, because my parents always put safety first, as all of us do as parents, that in the back seat of our old Plymouth, we got a seat belt retrofitted when seat belts came in, and it was one long seat belt across the whole back seat. And you can imagine, as a mother particularly, with 3 rambunctious boys in the back, and I always had to sit in the middle because my brothers were older, and one of them would move and it would kind of get me. But I never understood why my mother didn't think that going up to up US 42 in this car and seeing a doubleheader was such a great deal, 2 games for the cost of 1. I didn't quite understand that. Mike and I both know how things work in the House of Representatives. If you don't care who gets the credit, you can get things done. That's how I have succeeded in an increasingly partisan, think Karl Rove, think Newt Gingrich, think Tom DeLay, how I've been able to succeed in increasingly partisan Congress, bringing the Western Reserve Veterans Cemetery to Medina County, the only one of its kind in Northeast Ohio, with Republican Ralph Regula helping us fund it, convincing the Clinton administration in my early days in Congress to bring the Export Assistance Center to Cleveland, which helps small businesses in a 3-state region export their products all over the world, because I believe in more trade and because I support fair trade for our communities and for our economy and our country. The Bilirakis-Brown Children's Health Bill, which dramatically changed the way we do children's health research in this country. The Frist-Brown Bioterrorism Bill, the first of its kind in our nation. The King-Brown State Fiscal Relief Bill, which provided millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to the Ohio Medicaid program to provide health care to Ohioans in the dawn of their lives and in the twilight of their lives. The Deal-Brown Medical Error Accountability Bill, which helps hospitals and physicians and saves lives. The Ferguson-Brown Birth Defects Prevention Bill, which gives hope to so many. Always bipartisan, always the Republican name goes first, and always the Republican getting the most credit. But that's how you get things done. And one of my proudest accomplishments, to provide over the last decade more than $1 billion to children's hospitals through the Graduate Medical Education Program, places like Rainbow and Akron Children's, to train our nation's pediatricians. Mike, as you remember, after we did our work in the House on that bill, I asked you and several others to help get that bill through the Senate. Thank you for that. Other times, Mike knows, a member of the minority works through the amendment process, addressing the domestic and international public health threat from tuberculosis, patient protections in the Medicare law, the Right to Go Home Act providing basic rights to seniors in our nursing homes, combating antibiotic resistance, forcing a reluctant Bush administration to enforce trade laws with China. But I got into this race because Mike DeWine and his Republican friends in the leadership in Washington have betrayed our values and betrayed the middle class. Republican leaders in Columbus think of state government as a piggy bank to enrich their friends and contributors. And in Washington, the drug companies, the HMOs, the oil companies have a stranglehold on Mike DeWine and on the United States Senate. Republicans have allowed the drug companies to write the Medicare law, the HMOs to write health care legislation, the oil companies to dictate our energy policies, the largest corporations in our country which outsource jobs to push through those job-killing trade agreements. Here's what I will do in my first days come January in the United States Senate. I will fight now in a bigger arena for a trade policy which helps the middle class. I will continue to work with Republican Senators Lindsey Graham and Larry Craig as we work together and almost defeated the Central American Free Trade Agreement. I will fight now in a bigger arena for better health care for the middle class. I'll continue to work with Republican Senator John McCain to lower prescription drug prices as we work together on our generic drug bill. I stood up to a president of my own party, not just in opposition to the North American Free Trade Agreement, but also in support of the Balanced Budget Amendment, in restoring fiscal sanity to our government. I agree with Senator Voinovich that Mike DeWine and others have betrayed the conservative principles of limited government. I want to go to the Senate and work with Senator Voinovich on sound tax policy that benefits the middle class without burying our grandchildren in debt. I'd like to recognize Senator Voinovich, if we could recognize him for his work, who is here with us today. And I will sit down in my first days in office with Republican Senators Chuck Hagel and John Warner to come up with a bipartisan, the only way we can do it, a bipartisan exit strategy for Iraq. Something else will happen when I go to the United States Senate. There will be a synergism, a cooperation between Governor Strickland and Senator Brown that we have never seen between Governor Taft and Senator DeWine. We have lost almost 200,000 manufacturing jobs since Mike DeWine and George Bush took their oaths of office in January 2001. More than 100,000 Ohioans have lost their health insurance. College tuition is virtually double. And our so-called leaders, our governor and our senior senator, have stood by passively, almost indifferently. I don't think that Mike DeWine, who has lost touch with Ohio, sees the promise of Ohio. I don't think he understands the greatness of our people. I don't think he sees the potential of our next generation. I see it. I see it in Marietta and Gallipolis. I see it in Marion and Lima. I see it in the entrepreneurial spirit of NASA engineers. I see it in the idealism of medical researchers in our great teaching hospitals. I see it at Oberlin College, which is the location of the largest building on any college campus in America, fully powered by solar energy. But the builder had to go to Japan and Germany to buy the solar panels because we don't make enough of them in this country. And I see it when I talk to Ron Richards at the Cleveland Foundation, who knows that we can utilize windmills to supply electricity for much of our manufacturing in Northeast Ohio, giving Ohio businesses a competitive advantage. I grew up working on a family farm near Mansfield, where I learned that Ohio has some of the most productive agriculture in our great nation. Yet, today, we produce very little ethanol. And one thing you can count on, Governor Strickland and I will work together, will work hand in hand to help make Ohio the Silicon Valley of alternative energy. The central question in this campaign is increasingly clear. If you want to stay the course in Iraq, if you want to continue the economic policies, the health care policies, the education policies of the Bush and the Taft administrations, then you should vote for the incumbent. But if you want a United States Senator who will work with a team to turn around Ohio, if you want a United States Senator who will stand up to the special interests, and if you want a United States Senator who will stand up for the middle class, then I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Congressman Brown. Now we will have opening remarks from Senator DeWine. Senator.
I want to start by introducing my bride of 39 years, the mother of our 8 children, and now grandmother of almost 10, my wife Fran. My son Pat is here, my daughter Alice, 2 of our 8 children. It is great to be at the City Club. This is always the place for free speech. I've been here many times. It is great to be back. Just a few days, the people of this state will make a momentous decision. The question for the people of the state of Ohio is this: who do they trust? Who do they trust with the awesome responsibility of being one of our 2 United States senators? Fundamental differences between Congressman Brown and myself. I'm going to talk about them today. When I went to Washington, I decided I wasn't going to give a lot of political speeches, partisan speeches. What I was going to do is work to make a difference, and I have done that. A United States Senator can play a role in making things happen for this state. You know, we have problems in this state. We have challenges in this state, but I'm an optimist. I believe this state's best days are ahead of us. We can do things, and we will move forward. And I have worked to do that since I've been in the United States Senate. There is a role for a United States Senator, and I have filled that role. Look at Northeast Ohio. I brought back $275 million to this, just to Cuyahoga County alone. That's been money that has been used to help our highways, to help our infrastructure, and to make a difference in this state. When I first went to the Senate, NASA Glenn, I fought for NASA Glenn. We have protected, we have saved NASA Glenn. I have fought for the regenerative medicine program, part of our new economy in this state, a great thing where we're improving people's lives and bringing jobs to this region of the state. And I fought to clean up the Great Lakes. What magnificent lakes, this great lake that we have. And I have brought money back. I have helped expand the areas where the public can go and have access, and I have helped to clean it up, working with George Voinovich, working with Carl Leving, working in a bipartisan way. Everything I've done in the United States Senate has been in a bipartisan way. Dozens of bills that I passed and amendments that have increased the quality of life of the people of this state. Our schools in Cleveland. I brought back $46 million extra dollars because of a bill that Senator Mary Landrieu, a Democrat from New Orleans, and I wrote. It's helped our urban schools, some of our rural schools. It's the poorest schools, and it's made a difference. I have made a difference in regard to DFAS. I led the charge when they wanted to close Cleveland DFAS, and we all came together in a congressional delegation, and we made a difference, and we saved it. I have not only saved it, we expanded it to 500 new jobs. We've made a difference. I've made a difference when we talked about Continental Airlines, and I saw what we needed to do to preserve Continental and expand Continental, and I've been a fighter for Continental because that's important to business and jobs in this region. In the state, I brought back $1.2 billion for the whole state. We've done things in regard to using my experience as a county prosecuting attorney, where we've expanded the DNA database and the automated fingerprints so that we can go after these criminals, lock them up, and keep them locked up. I wrote the legislation that put pornographers on the sex database. I wrote the legislation that got rid of the statute of limitations for sex offenders. I have done all this in a bipartisan way, and we're going to continue to do that when I go back to the Senate. I've been endorsed by the FOP, and that's the reason why. And I've worked to help the families of our troops. Congressman Brown has a very different record, and I want to outline it because people need to understand what the facts are. Congressman Brown, in his 8 years as Secretary of State, had a scandal-riven office. Three different times, the State Highway Patrol investigated his office. In 1983, the patrol investigated reports that employees were selling drugs in a mailroom. In 1985, undercover agents made buys from two employees. And then again, still in 1989, the third investigation about an employee who unfortunately ate a banana laced with marijuana, a serious, and had to go to the hospital. Over the whole period of time, the scandal was continuing. And what was his answer? What was Congressman Brown's answer to all this? He proposed to spend 2 months going to Japan on a sabbatical. That's what his proposal was to do with that. Then he runs for the House of Representatives. Does not pay his taxes. Does not pay his unemployment taxes. Does not pay, that's the truth. You know, like Harry Truman said, it's not hell when it's really the truth. This is the truth. Did not pay the taxes for almost 2 years, and did not pay them until the state of Ohio filed legal action against him. Those are the facts. Then he went to the United States Congress, and in the United States Congress, this is what he has done. 4 bills in 14 years. 1 bill to rename a federal building in Medina, 3 bills to help the country of Taiwan attend a conference in Switzerland. Now, Congressman Brown just told you about all these newly named bills. I will tell you, all these names with Frist Brown and McCain Brown, that's the first time anyone has ever heard those names used. It's never been used before. You heard it first, right here in the City Club, another first. And jobs, Congressman Brown points to all the jobs that he has created. Here's the truth. Congressman Brown has not created 1 job in the state of Ohio except the people who work directly for him on the government payroll. That is the fact. And when we had the BRAC process and DFAS in Cleveland, we were worried about DFAS. Congressman Brown was AWOL. And then when the bill came to the Senate floor to vote on, amazingly, when we were all there, we voted. On the House floor, Congressman Brown voted the wrong way. Then he came out and said it was a mistake. He was AWOL the entire period of time. He's voted wrong consistently. He's been on the wrong side, and that's the reason, quite frankly, that Ohio newspapers from the Cleveland Plain Dealer, the Columbus Dispatch, the Cincinnati Enquirer, the Akron Beacon Journal, the Dayton Daily News, the top 5 papers in the state have all endorsed me, even his hometown paper of Cleveland. This is a man who is out of touch. There's a reason the Cleveland Plain Dealer labeled him highly partisan. There is a reason that the National Journal said he is on the fringe. When he disagrees with his party, he goes far left. Whether it's Bill Clinton or whoever it is, he goes far, far left and has done it time and time again. He does not represent the values of this state or does not understand this state. No one understands this state better than I do. I know our challenges. I know what we have to do. We have to move this state forward, but the only way we're going to do it, quite bluntly, is by Democrats and Republicans working together. That is what I have done since I went to the United States Senate, and I will continue to do that if you reelect me. Thank you very much.
All right, Senator DeWine, thank you very much for your opening statement. Congressman Brown, you now have 2.5 minutes for your final remarks.
Thank you. In addition to this being the largest city club candidates debate perhaps ever, you've witnessed another historical event. You've watched a 12-year, two-term incumbent United States Senator morph into a desperate candidate. Mike's, I mean, I ask my supporters never to show disrespect to Mike, never boo, never hiss, never do any of that. Mike's had a bad week. I mean, he's had a pretty bad week. He's run these continued nasty ads, yet new television stations have forced them off the air. He's had bad poll numbers. The Republican National Committee said they're going to pull his money, but that's not even the point. The point is, this is the City Club. This is the most prestigious citadel of free speech in the entire United States of America. And you've watched a 12-year United States senator do personal attacks with no basis. You've watched a United States senator who is simply continuing his nasty television ads at the City Club. And I think most of you, including Mike DeWine supporters, Sherrod Brown supporters, and those of you who are here as just good citizens, I think most of you want to hear a debate about what we're going to do in the future. I mean, there's a reason the Dayton Daily News, Mike DeWine's hometown paper, calls him mud-loving Mike DeWine. You saw it in his 1992 campaign, his 1994 campaign, and you're seeing it again today. One more point I wanted to make is that, I hear Mike talk about, you heard me list what I've done, and I could have spoken for twice as long. I know you probably didn't want me to, but to speak about the accomplishments I've had in Congress. But Mike knows what it's like to be in the minority. When he was in the minority in the House of Representatives, he had two bills passed, and one of them was to proclaim the month of May Courtesy is Contagious Month. So, he knows what it's like to be in the minority. And I would add, the plain dealer said that Republican Mike DeWine's record of accomplishments in Congress would fit on a 3x5 card with room to spare for the grocery list. I didn't make up that quote. This election's clear. We need to talk. The reason that Mike's a desperate candidate is he hasn't spoken about the future. He hasn't talked about fighting for the middle class. He hasn't talked about what we need to do in this state to bring this state back, and he hasn't acknowledged his failures in pulling the state down. We will have a better day in Ohio. We'll have a better day come January when we have Governor Strickland and Senator Brown. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Congressman Brown. Senator DeWine, you have 4 minutes for your closing remarks.
Congressman Brown just can't get it straight. It's amazing. You know, Sherrod, that no one pulled our ads off the air. They're still running on the air, and you can't hide from your record. That's the basic facts. You also know that when you quoted the Dayton Daily News, they endorsed me, Sherrod. They didn't endorse you. Now, Congressman Brown can't run from this record. And that's why he's distorted things. That's why he's had this mudslinging campaign, this entire campaign. Now let's start. I started with an ad on TV, and my first ad had to do with the Fire Act that I wrote along with Chris Dodd that's brought back money to our local fire departments, over $100 million to the state of Ohio. The second ad had to do with the Better Pharmaceuticals Act, another bill that Senator Dodd and I wrote that has changed the lives of young children. It's made a huge, huge difference. What did Congressman Brown first do? What he first did in the campaign is send me a plagiarized letter. And here's what the Cleveland Plain Dealer said about it. He said it was crisp and plagiarized. That's how he started this campaign. When I pointed out that Congressman Brown has only passed 4 bills in 14 years, he came back and posted a long list of bills. Some of them were included in what he said here today. You know what the facts are? Go check them on his internet site. 1/2 of them never became law. And the other ones, many of that did not become law, he didn't even vote for. That's what he put up. Congressman Brown says that he paid his taxes. He didn't pay his taxes for 2 years. That's what the facts are. And he didn't pay them until he was forced to pay them. Congressman Brown tries to link me to scandals. Talk about running guilt by association ads, Sherrod. Absolutely unbelievable. Here's what he does. He tries to link me to scandals. The truth is that there's no connection between Mike DeWine and those scandals. I don't even play golf, Sherrod. I don't have anything to do with that. The truth is, he's tried to link me to other people, but I think the Dayton Daily News said it best. Ohioans should not punish Mike DeWine, who hasn't been touched by scandal, and who has accomplishments that Democrat voters must respect. That's the Dayton Daily News. Congressman Brown says he's for alternative to energy, and he gives this visionary plan about energy. Here's the difference, folks, the difference between myself and Congressman Brown. He talks about things. I do things. The energy bill, he voted against. He voted against the energy bill. Ted Strickland voted for the energy bill. 23 out of 24 Midwestern senators voted for the energy bill, but not Sherrod Brown. He didn't vote for it. Again, actions versus words. And then he says, didn't say it today, but I'm sure he will, that Porter Goss voted with him. I talk about the 10 times that Congressman Brown voted to cut our intelligence spending, and then the fact that he voted against the Patriot Act. Congressman Brown has come back and said, oh, but Porter Goss was on my side. Well, we've checked with Porter Goss. That's not true. 10 different times when he voted to cut intelligence, Porter Goss was on the other side of that. He did not vote to cut intelligence. So, fundamental difference. Congressman Brown needs to stick with his record. I will stick with my record. I have a vision for the future of the state of Ohio. But not only do I have a vision, I've backed it up with action. I've backed it up with getting things done, and we've done it in a bipartisan way. Thank you very much.
And now the City Club's pride and joy, your questions. The question and answer period. Questions addressed to one candidate will be answered by that candidate. They will get a 1-minute time limit. The other candidate will then get 30 seconds for a responsive comment. Questions addressed to both candidates will be answered with a 1-minute time limit for each. As moderator, I may ask either candidate a follow-up question or ask for some clarification. Those responses will be held to 30 seconds. Now, again, a reminder, questioners, thank you in advance for keeping the questions. Say it loud, say it clearly, keep it short, and tell us which candidate you would like to respond. Again, our roaming microphone team, Missy Toms, Marcella Brown, and up there in the club seats, Chrissy Missig. Okay, have a hard time seeing, but okay, let's go to Missy's first questioner.
This question is addressed to Senator DeWine. Senator, you and President Bush have often referred to yourselves as being compassionate conservatives. My question arises on the matter of embryonic stem cell research. There are many people today in our state who have Parkinson's disease, who have Alzheimer's disease, who have Lou Gehrig's disease, who just might be helped by federal funding for embryonic stem cell research. Why is it that you have consistently, along with President Bush, been against any federal funding for embryonic stem cell research? Is that compassionate?
For me, it's a matter of principle. I'll tell you what I believe. I believe we're dealing with a human life. And I think the question that is posed is, should federal tax dollars be used to destroy human life? My answer has to be no. I will say that I'm the one in this race who's put a significant amount of money working with others into adult stem cells. Right here in Cleveland, with Case, the University Hospital, the Cleveland Clinic. I've met people who've been helped. I've seen the great potential, and it's a wondrous thing to behold. Great progress is being made, private money, public money, state money. And I will continue when I go back to the Senate to work to expand that.
Congressman Brown, we'll give you a full minute to respond to that.
Thank you. I have in my office received literally dozens of parents who have brought 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old children who have juvenile diabetes in to see me to talk about funding for National Institutes of Health, where this government has fallen far short to fulfill, and also embryonic stem cell research. And juvenile diabetes is believed by most scientists to be the disease that is most curable by embryonic stem cell research. And I think if we really support life, if we really care about a cure for so many of these diseases that afflict Republicans and Democrats and old people and young people alike, that we need to give scientists, to open every door for scientists so they can walk through every single door, whether it's adult stem cell research or embryonic stem cell research, and have those opportunities to cure our children, to cure our parents, and to cure our brothers and sisters.
All right. Next question to Marcella Brown, please.
Senator DeWine, you have a reputation of supporting children's medical care, so pediatricians like me were stunned to find out that you voted for a bill which would have the effect of depriving millions of children of insurance coverage for their well checks, immunizations, and other preventive care. So just when young parents need the coverage the most, and can afford to pay for it the least, why would you vote to deprive them of insurance? Why did you vote for this bill? It's S-1955.
Well, the fact is I did not vote against young children. I have 8 children of my own. We have 9 grandchildren. I don't think anyone has worked harder in the United States Senate, or frankly more effectively than I have for our kids. I wrote the legislation that, along with Chris Dodd, when we found out that 80% of the new drugs that come on the market have never been tested for kids, we changed that. Now we force the drug companies to test these drugs, and now over 120 drugs have been tested for children. I'm the one who has brought back money for Rainbow Babies and for every children's hospital around the state, using my position on the Appropriations Committee. I'm the one candidate in this race who has made a difference in regard to highway safety with kids, changing our highway laws, changing what we're doing in this area, and have made a big difference. So no one fights more for kids in this country or around the world than I do. I led the charge, along with Dick Durbin, to get AIDS money to foreign countries, and so we can help those kids as well.
Congressman Brown, 30 seconds for this.
It comes down to this. On vote after vote after vote, Mike DeWine is faced with a choice. Do we do tax cuts for the wealthiest 1 or 2% of people in this society, betraying those conservative principles, as Senator Voinovich has pointed out? Or do we take care of Medicaid, or take care of our children, or take care of funding NIH, or take care of LIHEAP programs, or take care of fulfilling our pledge on No Child Left Behind? $42 billion underfunded so that Senator DeWine and his friends can vote for tax cuts for the richest 1% of people in this country. That's the problem, and that's the choice.
All right, for the next question, hopefully for both candidates or Congressman Brown first, let's go up to the balcony. Chrissy Missig.
Yes, the question is for Congressman Brown first, and then I hope for a response from DeWine as well. The question is this. President Bush has said that he supports the creation of 2 states in the state of Israel, one for Palestinians and one for Jews. What are your positions on this issue?
Thank you for that question. I've always been a strong supporter of Israel and will continue to be. That is actually one issue that Senator DeWine, on almost every point on that issue, that we agree with each other on.
I have a long record of support for Israel, and I will continue to do that. I'm on the right committee at the right time. I'm on the Senate Appropriations Committee. I'm on the Foreign Operations Subcommittee. I have been there for Israel. I will continue to be there for Israel. They are our great ally, and I will continue to do that.
All right, let's go to Missy Thomas for the next question.
My question is a yes or no question for both candidates. Senator DeWine, if you retain your seat, Congressman Brown, if you gain the senator's seat, will you support Concordia Care, which is an all-inclusive care for the elderly?
Well, I have been a big supporter of help for the elderly. I work, for example, to bring money back to this local community for the Visiting Nurses Association, to reach out to them. I will continue to do that. I wrote for the Americans Act. Senator Barbara Mikulski and I wrote that bill. Congressman Brown didn't show up to vote on it, but I worked on that. I also have a piece of legislation in a bipartisan way that I've put forward that would help every American, so when they become old, they will be able to get care. That's a bill that Senator Kennedy and I have written, and we hope to get that bill passed. So I am a big supporter and have made the difference. The big difference between Congressman Brown and myself in this race is I do things. I take action. Congressman Brown talks about it.
But being a good, pushy reporter, that's a yes?
That'd be a yes. Right. Sorry, I should have started with a yes.
All right, Congressman Brown,
that's
1 minute.
a yes, but you can't, yes. You cannot do what we need to do to fulfill our obligations to the elderly in this country if you pass a Medicare bill that's written by the drug companies and the HMOs, if you support Social Security privatization to put public dollars into risky stock market investments, and if you vote for tax cut. So again, echoing Senator Voinovich, vote for tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans, and then you're forced to cut Medicaid, forced to underfund LIHEAP, the home heating program for the elderly, forced to underfund public transit, which particularly serves the elderly in the greater Cleveland community. You cannot simply if you're going to take our country in the direction of busting a hole in the federal budget, in squeezing the budget year after year after year, you can't do what we need to do to fulfill our promise to the elderly.
Next question, Marcella Brown.
Okay. I work for the Sisters of Charity of St. Augustine, and thank you for this great debate. I have a question for both of you. With more than 46 million uninsured, can you each describe your ideas to address this life-threatening issue, please?
Congressman Brown.
Yeah. 3 things, since I only have 60 seconds. First of all, you save hundreds of billions of dollars, not by selling out to the drug industry, but by telling the government to fix the Medicaid, to fix the hole in the Medicare drug benefit, that the government negotiates prices directly with drug companies, the way it's done almost everywhere else in the world, that will then better take care of those that are underinsured, some case have insurance, some case don't have insurance. Second thing we do is we extend Medicare eligibility voluntarily to those 55 to 64, allowing them to buy in to the most comprehensive universal insurance pool to keep costs down because of the size of the pool, allowing seniors to buy in, or allowing 55 to 64-year-olds to buy in, and keeping it revenue neutral, which I've proposed for 10 years, but because of the lock, frankly, the leaders in Congress don't much like Medicare. They want to privatize it, not strengthen it. We've not been able to move it forward. Third thing you do is you give tax incentives to small businesses so that they can buy into the federal employee benefits health plan, a very good plan available to all federal employees.
All right, Congressman, time's up. Senator DeWine.
I have voted against my own party when I thought there was not enough money in there for Medicaid for kids. Very, very important. If we want to get more people insured, then we have to pass the legislation that we have in the Senate now that Congressman Brown is against, that would allow small businesses to do what they're begging us to do, which is reach across state lines and pool their resources together. It's a small business bill which will help get more people, more employees insured. Congressman Brown talks about prescription drug coverage. It's ironic. If he had his way, the bill never would have passed. People wouldn't have gotten prescription drug coverage. What he is talking about as far as negotiations, he was a co-sponsor of the Gephardt bill, which had the precise language in regard to negotiations. Negotiations, Sherrod, you know, are taking place. They're taking place by the companies who are forcing these costs down. The bill you voted for or were in favor of had the same provision in it.
All right, up to the balcony where the air is rare. Chrissy Missig.
Okay, this question is for both candidates. Do you believe that the Patriot Act has made us safer?
Congressman.
I oppose the Patriot Act, as you know. I thought the Patriot Act had some very good points, but I also thought that the Patriot Act went too far. I think that the Patriot Act fell short in preserving privacy protections for people using libraries, for medical records and financial records. But it's not just the Patriot Act. This government has lost its focus on fighting the war on terror. We tell our grandmothers to take their shoes off at airports, yet we inspect only 10% of cargo containers coming into our ports. In Afghanistan, the country of Afghanistan is clear. The Taliban is stronger than it's been any time in the last 5 years because our government has lost its focus in the war in Iraq. If Mike DeWine had done his job on the Intelligence Committee and had the focus on the war on terror the way he should have, protecting our homeland, protecting our chemical plants and our water systems and our nuclear facilities, and had done his job overseeing in the war in Iraq and done his job with Iran and North Korea and what's happened in Afghanistan, where we aren't even trying, apparently, to find Osama bin Laden anymore, we would be a safer country.
Senator DeWine, your response?
I'm for the Patriot Act. I helped write parts of it. Nothing defines the difference between Congressman Brown and myself more than this particular issue of terrorism. Congressman Brown has a pre-9/11 mentality. Let me tell you a quick story. 10 years ago, the FBI was going after people all around, going after Osama bin Laden. They could talk to everybody in the world, law enforcement-wise, but they couldn't talk to the fellow FBI agents across the street. The Patriot Act knocked that wall down. It has made a difference. It is saving lives. It is protecting us. Congressman Brown talks about libraries. You gotta be kidding me. We have, under the Patriot Act, the toughest requirement to get business records, which is what library records are, of any time that we've ever had in the history of this country. A local county prosecutor in Geauga County or Cuyahoga County can go get library records by going to the grand jury. But to do it under the Patriot Act, you have to go to the FISA court and prove your case before you go get those library records. He doesn't know what he's talking about in this.
All right, next question to Missy Toms, please.
In a recent New York Times article, Tom Friedman suggested that energy independence has become our #1 national security issue. Can you each respond to why you think this is or is not the case, and tell us what you would do as senator to move America in the right direction?
Senator DeWine, we'll give you the first crack at that.
Yes, first, again, a difference between the two of us. I voted for the energy bill. Congressman Brown voted against the energy bill. It isn't perfect, but it's a start, and we're moving in the right direction. As I travel around the state of Ohio, people tell me they're sick and tired of us being dependent on the Saudis, on Chavez in Venezuela. We have to kick the habit of oil. If I was president, I think what I would do, and I've said this many, many times, I'd go on TV and say we're going to do this and become energy independent by a date certain. We have to take action. I have used my position on the Senate Appropriations Committee to help what is emerging as the great new economy in the state of Ohio as we move away from oil and we move towards energy independence, alternative fuels, fuel cells, hydrogen cars. I've put money into that as a member of the Appropriations Committee because that's the vision for Ohio. We need to be sellers of this technology in Ohio and not just buyers of it.
Congressman Brown?
Mike DeWine has received more than $400,000 from oil and gas interests for his campaign. He voted for an energy bill that was written by oil and gas interests, mostly to serve oil and gas interests. There were a few pennies on the dollar in that bill for alternative energy, but you know, all of you in this room know that our federal government has a bias towards oil and gas and a bias against serious alternative energy, whether it's ethanol, whether it's solar, whether it's wind power, whether it's fuel cells, any of that. And until this country makes a commitment, as Governor Strickland, soon to be Governor Strickland, and I have done to make Ohio the Silicon Valley of alternative energy. We have terrific entrepreneurship in this state, a long history of it. We have very productive agriculture. We have highly skilled manufacturing workforce. We are ideally suited to become the Silicon Valley of alternative energy. But Governor Taft and Senator DeWine have simply been indifferent to proposing any real reform and changes in our society.
Marcella Brown?
This question, or these two questions, are for Senator Mike DeWine. Senator, first of all, has Karl Rove called you with any advice of late? Secondly, you stated that you are an optimist, and 12 years ago when you entered the Senate, you also stated that Ohio's best years are ahead. Retracing some of those 12 years with the continued job erosion, the military lives that have been lost
No
in Ohio.
speech, please.
How much longer do we have to wait for the best years ahead?
Like Jeopardy, it must be in the form of a question.
No, Karl Rove has not called me recently, thank you very much, in regard to any advice. And I do think our best days are ahead of us. The difference between Congressman Brown and myself is I'm working in a bipartisan way to change the state and to move forward. Congressman Brown has these talking points and uses those all the time. Now, one of the talking points he has is about oil and how I'm beholden to the oil company. I'll tell you what, Sherrod, they weren't too happy with me when I voted not to drill in Anwar. They weren't happy about that. And let me also remind everyone, Ted Strickland voted for the energy bill. Is he corrupt, Sherrod? Ted Strickland voted for it. 23 out of 24 Midwestern senators voted for it. You're the one that's on the fringe. You're on the fringe.
Congressman?
Well, last week in our debate in Toledo, the Toledo Blade asked Senator DeWine, are we better off in Ohio today than we were 6 years ago? We're still waiting for an answer. He still hasn't said, he's proposed really nothing in this campaign about how we're going to move forward. He's talked about bipartisanship, which I applaud. He's talked about the money he brought back, although Senator Voinovich brought a lot of that money back, and so did members of Congress, including Steve LaTourette and others. So it really is a team effort, not a one-man show. But at election time, that's what people do. I understand that. But the point is that we need to work together to make this state better. The senior senator and the governor of his party and the Republican legislature and the Republican president and the Republican House of Representatives simply haven't delivered for Ohio. 200,000 manufacturing jobs lost. Mike's got no solutions. 100,000 people without health insurance in Ohio, more than we had 6 years ago. No solutions. Doubling the cost of tuition at state universities.
Okay,
Where
Congressman.
are these people?
Congressman,
we
they're gone.
need a new direction in this country.
All right, final audience question. Back up to the balcony. Chrissy Missing.
These are questions addressed to both. 1, would you fight for the impeachment of fascist Dick Cheney? 2,
We can do better than that, I think. We can do better than that.
would you fight for the replacement of the current collapsing global free trade financial system, which Lyndon
All right,
LaRouche
I
has
think
uniquely
we'll
warned,
pass on that
and
question.
to implement
I think we'll pass on that question. Let's go to Missy Toms.
You want to answer? Okay. It's your call.
What are we doing?
I think we can do better. Let's go to Missy Toms. Hey, I'm empowered here. So.
Give Barris a little power and look what happens. Right?
All right, one more question. Quick question, Missy Toms.
Okay. My question is for Congressman Brown. Senator DeWine sits on the powerful Appropriations Committee, the first Ohioan in 60 years. If you are elected, you'll have neither the seniority nor the committee placement. So my question is, how do you intend to mitigate that loss of clout for Ohio in general, and in particular in defending the NASA Glenn Research Center?
I think it's hard to make a case that Mike DeWine has delivered for the state. He says, I brought back this, I brought that. Again, it was Senator Voinovich that brought it back too, and it was Congressman LaTourette and my involvement and others, so it's not a one-man show. But more importantly, look what's happened to our state in the last 6 years. Would you rehire Mike? If you had an employee that under his watch all of these kinds of things happen, would you rehire him? We've lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs. I know I've said that before. We've lost 100,000 more people without health insurance. They have no plans to do anything about it. He brings back some money for a facility in the city of Cleveland, yet he and President Bush cut billions of dollars in community development block grants. So they cut money for programs that will really help our cities, and then they shower some pennies on the dollar back in some of the earmarks that simply don't make the grade. It's not the direction we need to take our state and our country. They have failed.
Well, here's the real question. Would you rehire someone who had a scandal all the time he was Secretary of State? True story. Oh, come on. And someone who missed 278 votes since he's been in the House of Representatives, someone who 92% of the time didn't show up for the hearings on Korea, someone who didn't pay his taxes for 2 years. That's the question. NASA Glenn, I've been a strong proponent. We've fought hard. I started working with John Glenn on it. George Voinovich and I have continued. We've worked with the congressional delegation. We've made a difference for NASA Glenn. I will continue to fight.
All right, thank you, audience, for those stimulating questions, and thank you, candidates, for those lively answers. Now, my final question to each candidate. Your answer can go 3 minutes each. The candidates will answer this question in the reverse order from the opening statements. So, Senator DeWine, you get to go first. Many people think that the country's political system is broken, party leadership is not functioning like it should. Debates are overly partisan, hostile, nasty, even personal. You've both spent the last hour and the better part of a year belittling each other, hammering each other, criticizing each other. I would like you to think very hard. You're both honorable public servants, and identify one or more positive personal traits or political stands in your opponent that you could call admirable, redeeming, or positive and constructive to the governing process. Senator?
Congressman Brown, like myself, has a great wife. Congressman Brown, like myself, loves baseball. And I think Congressman Brown and I have also worked on worrying about people who are overseas, and people who do not have enough money, and people who do not have, who are dying of AIDS. So we both share that passion. We'll take the rest of my time, if it's allowed, to talk about where I think this state needs to be going. Ohio is a great state, but we do face challenges. I see an Ohio that has a great future, but it's only a great future if we all work together, Democrats and Republicans. I will do that. Whether it's Ken Blackwell as governor or Ted Strickland, who I wrote several bills with, amazing thing, Republican in the Senate, Democrat in the House, both in the same state, 2 major bills that Ted and I wrote and passed. I will have a good relationship with whoever the governor is. We have unfinished business, and the job of the senator and the governor is to lay before the people of the state of Ohio that unfinished business, as John Kennedy would say. What's our state's future? It's agriculture. We have to get more use of sales overseas. Manufacturing. I have worked to preserve our manufacturing base in this state. I wrote the Byrd Amendment, which brought back $315 million to this state, to the manufacturers, so they can go create more jobs. I was there, went to the White House with George Voinovich and with Jay Rockefeller when we urged the president to put a quota on steel. But I also see a new economy in this state, and it's right here in Cleveland. It's NASA Glenn. It's Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, all the spin-off and the technology that we can see. I also see a great future in medical research. I will continue to work hard with this community for the medical research. We are going to be the place to come for medical research, and we already are, but it will be a great future. I see a great future in this state in many other ways. Alternative forms of energy. We've got to kick the habit of oil. And Ohio has the opportunity to be a leader in alternative forms of energy. I see it all around. People come to me all the time as a member of the Appropriations Committee and say, put money in this, put money in that. And we do it when we think it's going to make a difference. It's jobs, jobs, jobs for the state of Ohio. We have a great future. I want to go back to the United States Senate because I'm the one candidate in this race who has proven he can work across party lines to make a difference for all of us. Thank you very much. Thanks to the City Club for doing this.
All right, thank you very much, Senator DeWine. All right, Congressman Brown, again, 3 minutes. Your answer, again, oversimplified question in a constructive political spirit. Identify and discuss your opponent's good qualities, and then getting in your finishing lick here.
Thank you. I was
3 minutes.
I was going to say almost the same about Mike that he did about me. And I appreciate the work he has done in Haiti, especially in one of the poorest countries in the world, the poorest country close to us. I appreciate the work he's done there. And we also agree about baseball. We both root for the Indians and the Reds, and we'll agree about baseball until there's an I-71 World Series, and then we probably will disagree about baseball. But the race, the differences in this race are so very clear as election day draws near. I want to just point out again one of those differences, and I want to quote George Voinovich, if I could, on the Bush tax bill in 2005. By passing these tax cuts into law, I believe we're increasing the deficit and thus the nation's debt, which results in a future tax on our nation's children. I believe it's immoral to bequeath trillions of dollars in debt to our children and grandchildren. He called repeal of the state tax intellectually dishonest and incredibly irresponsible. In this campaign, we know the differences in positions on these issues, and we know that Mike DeWine wants to stay the course in Iraq, wants to continue these policies on Medicare, on No Child Left Behind, on Social Security, on the war in Iraq, on education, on energy. And that's really the difference. And I have in this campaign proposed very prescriptive, positive things about what we should do. We should fix the Medicare law by allowing people to go directly to Medicare for their prescription drug formulary, just like they go directly to Medicare and choose their doctor, and directly to Medicare and choose their hospital, not go through a middleman who takes money out of the system. The second thing, we need to fix these trade agreements like NAFTA and CAFTA and PNTR with China, and fix our tax law so that the incentives rest with local domestic manufacturers, small businesses, small companies, instead of continuing to reward these large corporations that outsource our jobs. We need to fix No Child Left Behind, and we need to help middle-class students go to college. And we know what we need to do in Iraq. We need to instruct the generals to come up with an exit strategy to redeploy our troops in the safest, most orderly way possible in the next year and a half to 2 years. Again, this election's clear. If you want to stay the course in Iraq and follow the policies of the Bush and Taft administration, then the incumbent's your man. But if you want a government if you want a senator that's going to stand up to special interests, that's going to work with Governor Strickland to turn Ohio around, including making us the Silicon Valley of alternative energy and commercializing all the biomedical research that we do in Northeast Ohio, coupled with what's happening at Akron U with polymers and medical devices and all of that. If you want to bring that energy to this U.S. Senate seat, in this cooperation with the governor, and you want a senator that's going to stand up for the middle class and stand up to these interest groups that have a stranglehold on our government in Columbus and a stranglehold on our government in Washington, then I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you, candidates. Thank you, audience. Courtney has some closing remarks, but I'd like to say it's got people thinking, it's got people talking, it's got people caring. That's what it's all about. Thank you all again. Thank you, candidates. May the best man win.
Television broadcast of this City Club Forum is made possible in part by National City. We provide financial solutions for individuals and businesses in 7 Midwestern states and selected markets nationally. At National City, we care about doing what's right for our customers.
John Carroll University, educating undergraduate and graduate students to be leaders in business and technology, education, the sciences, and many other fields. John Carroll University, strong Jesuit tradition, solid education, sound future.
Nordson Corporation, a world leader in systems that apply adhesives, sealants, and coatings during manufacturing operations to make today's products work better and last longer.